afternoon, good evening. My name is Gillespie. Today I just want to talk about an important thing in my life. It may not be something important in your guys', but there might be someone out there that can relate. So, December of last year, I was probably the most out of shape I've ever been in my entire life. Now, to go back even before then, when I met my wife, it was about 4.5 years ago, she would say I was super skinny and hungry, she says, but I was in good shape, able to run miles, wasn't really doing the BS that I used to do in life, kind of just sticking to my own, playing video games, a good amount. She said I wasn't eating enough, but, I would eat a proper amount for my body at the time. Usually like a Cliff Bar, an apple for like a lunch, maybe some sushi, maybe a little too much sushi, honestly, and like a light dinner. Very, very seldomly did I eat out or do anything like that. So, enough rambling. Last December, I realized I was entirely out of shape. I was playing video games all day when I got off work. Essentially, what my life was like was sedentary in a hole. My job was sitting down. I sat down, out of 8 hours, I probably sat on for 7. On my phone, scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through YouTube, watching videos, watching documentaries, just BSing, right? Completely out of shape, with no sense of motivation to do different, because I didn't realize I had such an issue, right? So I would go home from work, 8 hours. I worked, at the time I was working the night shift. So I would go home, I would sleep maybe 4-5 hours, and then I would play video games. I would hop on 2K, and I would play all day long. Like, I would play until I essentially ate dinner or go to work, and I would play through my wife arguing, right? So I'm streaming the video game, and don't get me wrong, I was pretty decent at the game. I was building my YouTube channel. I had a motivation. I wanted to make money. Like, that was a goal that I had for myself. And I got to a point where I was making money, and I was being sort of successful for a super, super duper small streamer, right? Like, my first official payout was over $200. Shit, it came at a time that my wife and I needed it. I was, and honestly, to look back, I probably spent the money that I could have had on builds, on VC, on BS, whatever $20 pack came out for a season, or $50 pack, whatever deal it had with it, some boosts and this and that. Just wasting money. No vision for what I wanted for my future, So, to circle back, come around December, I realized, I am so out of shape. I'm losing my shit. I got a new job, still in the same field, but I was making $3 more. I feel like I was on top of the world because you got bonuses, cash bonuses. I mean, you could really make some good money. I worked there for 3 weeks, and I got a $750 bonus. People that were there for a year were getting $5,000 bonuses. So, at that moment in time, I was like, okay, well, I see what my life can be. And when I made that switch to that night shift, I was working, I was coming from working day shift. So night shift, essentially, in the job field I was working in a supported living home, night shift is like the quintessential shift to do nothing, right? It's either you work daytime, get off at better hours, but you deal with the clients, make them food, deal with behaviors, versus working the night shift where they're sleeping essentially the entire time. They might wake up throughout the night. You have to be somewhat present, or you sleep yourself, or whatever. I took that time to begin working out. So I promised myself, if I can go 2 weeks working out with, all I had was these little push-up bars. I got a bad wrist right now. All I had was these little push-up bars, some little 20-pound weight, and like the ab roller and the resistance band. And that's all I was using. But for 2 weeks, I was very consistent. I was doing burpees because I had this room by myself. There was an empty room at my client's house. I was working out. I was doing my thing. I was staying awake. Whereas my coworkers were just falling the fuck asleep. I was making sure that I was staying locked in, doing my job. Especially when you're at a new job, you kind of at least most people are pretty locked in for their new jobs, right? So, long story short, I ended up getting a gym membership. It was at a Planet Fitness. I know. I get it. People don't think it's a real gym, but I've gotten in pretty good shape working out at Planet Fitness. I think it's all about how you utilize it, right? I think there are better gyms, 100%. People talk about free weights, this and that. I get better exercises out of isometric machines, something where I can really target a specific muscle. Good for stabilization, so on and so forth. But I get a gym membership. My gym is right down the street from my job. So I'm in the valley, so it's about a 20-minute drive or so back to my house. So I decide after work every day, I work out at work, I go to the gym, I work out. And I was doing that consistently. And over the last year, I've done that consistently, actually. I've really strayed from my path, maybe a week and a half at one point. But either way, I was still in the gym. And I would say that through that time, come around May actually, I decide I'm going to go on Indeed. I want a different job. I'm tired of this job. I feel like I'm leaving my job and I'm doing nothing. And that's a pill I could not swallow. I honestly hated it. It was one of the things that it was so hard for me to swallow. Like, yeah, I can sit here and do nothing and get paid for it and feel good about doing nothing. Or I can go out, way out of my comfort zone, find a different job, find a different trade, and go that route. So I began to have visions for my future, visions for my family, that this job would not be able to suffice. This job will not make it happen, right? So what I did, essentially, was went and got a better job. So that job so happened to be correctional officer. Through that time, I realized, okay, I do not have enough time to do what I need to do and stay focused on this new career, go to the gym, make time for my family, right? Because that was probably number one, to be honest. My wife made it very apparent that the video game was just not meshing with our household. My daughter was making that apparent. She was at a point where she's old enough that anytime I'm on the game, she's either hopping back there or trying to get me to play. And at first I'd get annoyed, like, God damn it, like, why is she doing this? Why is she hopping back here? You know, like, babe, come get her, right? My wife's pregnant. Even when I had my newborn, I was kind of more so off the game, but I was still like having her, you know, come get my daughter. And whole time now looking back, I see that was such an issue. Like, that was such a problem. Whereas I seen the video game streaming as more important, right? Trying to hit this peak where I can make money playing the game, where I can do this and it be a secondary supplementary income, but the amount of time needed to do so was not worth it, and it wasn't adding up, right? That little $200 that I made was by getting YouTube Partner, you eventually get ads, ad revenue, stream revenue, video revenue, so on and so forth, donations, if you have a shop, you know, this kind of that. But it just wasn't adding up, and it wasn't worth it. And it was hard for me to swallow because, you know what, I spent so much time building my persona on this video game. I've spent so much time building this YouTube channel that I felt like I was essentially deleting a part of me. I was deleting something that I cared so deeply for, even though it was causing turmoil in my house, my relationship, and it was making me very stagnant. It was making me accept less for myself, instead of going out and aiming higher, especially at the age that I'm at, right? I'm 27 years old, so I have to think about, okay, I want a career by the time I hit my 30s. Okay, I don't want to be playing the video game in my 30s, not having a great job, not aiming for higher heights, and accepting the very bare minimum for my family and I, where we're scraping by so that I can enjoy myself. Because you know what it would do is it would cause a rip and a tear in my wife's relationship with me. Would tear up my home, because I would hate for my kids to see the man that I was a year ago and think that that's what a real man is. You know, when I say that my life has changed, not only since I began getting in the gym, because it really has since then, that my energy levels, my attention to detail, my confidence, my security within myself has changed dramatically. And that's not just plans for, you know, the way I look or anything, but it's about how I feel inside, you know, and it's really changed the person that I've become. It changed my mindset, most importantly. So I look at life in an entire new perspective. It's not the same anymore at all. And I thank God for that. I'm really glad that I was able to lock in when I did, because it was so needed. And sometimes you reach like a boiling point, like a turning point in life, where it's like, all right, man, it's like now or never. Like, I'm tired of being sick and tired of being tired of being sick and tired. And you can either wallow and stay in that headspace, or you can ultimately make a change. And I'm very thankful that I did. Very grateful, because I love my job now. I love what I do. I'm so thankful for the coworkers, for, you know, I don't know them well enough, but you can see that developing, like, kind of work family aspect that you start to see within the job. Yeah, it can be cliquey, and there can be this and that, so on and so forth. But if you focus on the negative, that's all you'll see, right? I see a lot of great and a lot of good, a lot of positivity coming from the place that I'm in, not only at home, because I'm spending so much time with my wife, so much time with my kids, watching them grow up, not missing those little moments. The video game takes too much time, right? I think there are games, if you're like a solo player guy, and you can go play a game where you can turn it off and you're not streaming and this and that. But if you're spending hours at a time, you can miss so much in an hour. So much, especially at the age that my kids are at. When they're in that, you know, 0 to 3, 0 to 4 age, where they're so like influenced. You know, it's a developmental age where kids really build their foundation, if you will. And you're a part of that, you know? So for me in my life, it made sense to stop playing the video game. It hurt to stop playing something that I'd spent thousands of hours on, something that I was great at. I realized, okay, I am so great at this game. I'm really good at it. I love the game, but I'm at a point where I'm streaming, so I have to reach this sort of point, right, where you have to be putting in a certain amount of hours in a competitive game to be competitive, to be really good. And there's people that play the game that are dog piss and people watch them, but that number is so low in comparison to the kind of crowd you want to grab, right? If you're kind of dog piss, you play with your viewers and this and that, you can still ganter viewers, but the streaming game is about time put in, right? Until you reach a certain level, you can make a schedule, you can have 2-3 hours, and I applaud anyone that's able to build that foundation to get to that point where they can do that. But for me, I realized it was going to take too long, and it was at such a vital point in my life that I just could not carry on with it anymore. And the job that I have now, I've got a 401k, a pension, I've got stocks, I've got this and that makes life in the future 40 years from now look so much greater. Whereas it could be like, oh, I spent 50,000 hours, however many hours, playing this video game, and I got to the greatest point that I could and made X amount of dollars, but lost out on all of the time that I could have had with my child. Now she looks at a guy playing a video game, fat as hell, as the sort of person that she thinks is acceptable, right? And it's just not. And that's the end all be all, is when you find an out, you have to take it. When you're at a point that I was, when you're at a low point, you're in your blues, borderline depressed, it's time to lock the fuck in, figure out what you need to do, and make it happen. And that's exactly what I did. I'm so grateful, man. I would not go back. I really wouldn't. Like when GTA 6 comes out and that game comes out, of course I'm going to have an itch to buy the game. And maybe at that point in my life, I can play it responsibly, right? It's a solo player game. You can turn it off when you want. There's no like need to stay on the game for 35, 40 minutes at a time for each game. Like imagine when you're playing 2K. Every game takes about 30 minutes. You're playing 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a day, you know, unless people quit out or whatever bugs going on. Like, it just takes too much time. It's way too time consuming versus playing a game where it just makes more sense. I think taking a break from anything that you do too much is a really good thing. Getting it out of your house. Because for me, it's like having something I'm addicted to in my house. I could sit there and stare at it and be like, I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to play it. It's in my house. Eventually, I'm going to hop on, and then it's like crack. I smoke it once, all of a sudden, I'm fucking blowing my back out to get it again, right? Pause. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, it was just a point for me. It made sense for me. I'm very thankful I did it. I would never go back. So yeah, that's in a nutshell why I quit the game. Family, career, my health, my mental health, and I would not look back and ever regret my decision doing so. So I appreciate anyone who's listened. God bless you guys. I'm going to start making more videos like this. So if you're new here, sub up, drop a like, drop a comment, talk to me. More real life stuff now, man, because that's what I can relate with. I'll start diving into my career, diving into other things, random things. I'm coming back from the gym right now, and I felt like a little itch to talk. So I'm on 60 minutes now, man. Goddamn, rambling. Goddamn. But I love y'all, man. Bye.